If you have been following me on Instagram, you'll realize that I grew from 0 to 10,000 followers in just over 6 months. When I first started, the only device I had was the Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max. I didn't know how big I can get in content creation, so I thought, you know what, let me just give it a try. And everyone does that, right? You have a smartphone, you just turn on the camera and you start filming. However, if I have an opportunity to go back in time, I will do things slightly differently. See, the thing is, at that time, I didn't know how big it was going to get or how successful I was going to be as a content creator. But if I was serious about it from day one, which I was, and if you are serious about content creation from the beginning, from the get go, then I would recommend making some other changes in your strategy because it will help you grow massively over time. And in this video, I will share exactly that. As a content creator for the past year, I've gained so much experience and I've made so many mistakes during my journey. I would like to share those with you and tell you that how you can really propel yourself in this journey and become really successful as a content creator. And most of these strategies will apply to Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, you would know that I grew very quickly on the account and I'm still growing. And I have done over 50 brand collaborations during that time. So my strategies obviously work, but I think I could have achieved much better results if I had taken a slightly different approach. So in this video, I want to share that with you. So if you are in that journey today, and if you're going through that process today, you can take this as a guide and hopefully will help you become better as a content creator. So let's get started. First, we're going to focus on tools that you need as a content creator. See, everyone will tell you that you only need a smartphone to get started. Whilst that's true, and that's exactly what I did, I do think that if you are serious and you are committing yourself to becoming a content creator, there needs to be an urge to make an investment towards it, because while smartphones are great and they produce great quality videos, you are going to compete with creators who are good at it, are very good at it. They have great filming skills, great editing skills. So you are going to struggle to grow in that space unless you're very, very good. And there are some creators that I follow. They're doing amazing work with their iPhone and they're creating amazing content and they reach over 100,000 followers. But the point is, not everyone can do that. You have to be either really good at filming or really good at editing to be able to get to that stage. But when you start at the beginning, you're neither good at great filming or professional filming or editing. So you're kind of learning as you grow. But this is the whole point here. So you're learning as you grow. And if you adapt and have some of these tools at a very early stage, you will also grow in terms of how you use those tools. For example, if you use an iPhone as a content creator, what will happen is that you become really good at using iPhone. You'll be able to create content, you'll be able to edit content on the go, you'll be able to upload content really easily. So slowly and gradually, you will master the skills of using an iPhone as a content creator. But what will happen is that once you get to a stage where your quality matters and you'll be competing with all the major influencers in the sector or in your particular niche, then what really matters at that stage is the quality. So when I got from 0 to 10,000 followers, it wasn't as challenging. I mean, the quality did matter, but didn't matter to a point where I had to kind of, put myself out there, use extensive editing skills, use really high, good quality lighting. Didn't really matter too much. I could just post content, just quantity is what mattered. But when I got to 10,000 followers, my growth slowed. And then I had a rethink, what is causing this dip in my growth? And I realized that I have now come out of the initial stage and now I'm in this micro influencer group where content quality matters and my audience will look for that quality of the content. So I had to really up my game. I had to start investing in camera, I started investing in lighting. But then there was another learning curve that I had. So what happened is, if I had adapted all those technologies, or if I would have got myself used to those technology at a very early stage, by the time I got 10,000 followers, where from that point quality really matters, I would have gained all those skills, not just from being comfortable with camera or filming, but also using those tools like a professional camera, like professional lighting. So I realized that when I got to 10,000 followers, from that point, there was another learning curve that I had to go through, which was how to use lighting, how to master lighting skills, how to master your camera usage, how to use your camera better, how to do editing on a professional level. So that all took a lot of time. And you can see on my Instagram that I grew from 0 to 10,000 followers in about 6 months. And then from 10,000 to 12,000, it took me another 6 months because there was that massive learning curve and there was this competition of really high quality content and really engaging content. And for me to produce the same amount of content, for you to produce the same amount of content, you need to have those skills. So if you're just getting started, I would strongly recommend investing in 3 tools. One is a really high quality camera. Second is a really good lens, more versatile. And third, good lighting. In terms of camera, there are so many different options. And when I was in the market, to be honest with you, I was really overwhelmed. And it took me a lot of time to understand the market. And as I said before, if you're getting into content creation and you're kind of at a 0 to 10,000 stage, or like first 6 months, if you haven't done that, then by the time you get to that stage, and then you have to invest in your time to understanding this world of cameras and really up your game in terms of content production, you're losing out. You're missing out. You cannot produce the content at the same time. It's a lot of work. So that's why I recommend you doing that research before. So if you're quite early as a content creator, I would recommend you spending a bit of time trying to understand which camera is good for you. And if you need my recommendation, I would just say, go for Sony A7C Mark II. That's the one I'm using. That's the one I'm using right now. It's a really good hybrid camera, which means it takes really good videos, but also really good photos. And as a content creator, I want to have the flexibility of being able to take both videos and photos. I don't have a lot of money to invest, so I want something which is hybrid, but really good. There's so many choices out there and it can get really confusing. So I would recommend, just going with the simplest option possible. In that case, I would recommend the Sony A7C Mark II. This video is not sponsored by any shape or form. So, this is my pure honest recommendation to you guys. And also the reason I'm recommending Sony is because most of the content creators actually use Sony cameras. So you find so many different tutorials and tips and tricks how to master the skills and how to make good use of your camera. After you got yourself the camera, you need a lens. And don't go for the Sony standard lenses because they are very expensive, and B, they don't offer the versatility that you need as a creator. You don't have a lot of money to invest to get started, so you can't have 3 or 4 different lenses for different occasions. You need one lens that can pretty much cover everything, right? So Tamron 2875 or Sigma, they're pretty good. So, but get a range which starts from 18 or 20 or 25, 28, all the way up to 75, 78, 80. That range will cover all different types of shots that you want to produce. So whether it's wide, whether it's close-ups, extra close-ups, zoom in, zoom out. So I found that the lens that I use, which is from Tamron, is pretty lightweight. It's quite versatile. It has a good depth in terms of the focal points, and it produces really high quality cinematic looking footage. And that's the one I'm using right now. The third tool that you need for filming is the lighting. So as a content creator, I didn't realize how important lighting is. I used to just rely on daytime lighting. I would shoot every time exactly the same time of the day. So my content looks consistent and the quality looks consistent. But then I realized, living in London, we don't often get sunny days. And when we do, they're really bright, and the cloudy days are, they're not consistent. So the lighting in my footage used to fluctuate quite a lot, even on the same day for the same shoot. So then what I realized is, I need to invest in lighting. In fact, I got into lighting a lot sooner than I got into camera lenses. And that's the reason why it helped me get to 10,000 really quickly. So what I would recommend you is to go out for 3 or 4 different lights. One is your main light, which will be your kind of the one that's facing the subject. And then second is your background lighting, which you can see on the back of my desk here, which is your ambient lighting. So main light, and then you can get an RGB tube light. I'll put the links in the description down below so you can go and get yourself if you want one. But there are multiple options. You don't need to go for the most expensive one or these top end brands to begin with. Any light will do, but just make sure they have good range of white light. And also a good range of ambient lighting. And then you need a soft light, just an umbrella, just to make the lights look more natural and soft. So you got yourself a camera, you got yourself the lens, and you got yourself the lighting. And please do remember, don't just think about, okay, I'm going to get a really good camera and a really good lens and that's it. Lighting is absolutely crucial. For me, it's 50% of filming. If you don't have the right amount of light and you don't have a good lighting, your footage can be, from the most expensive camera, it still look dull and boring. So make sure you create a depth in your footage through a really high quality lighting setup. Okay, so that ends the first section of this video, which was about the tools. The second part of this video is going to be around editing. So once you got your footage and you've got your really good camera and lens and lighting setup, excellent. Now the hard part comes in, which is the editing. So if your footage is really good from the start, you have good lighting, good camera, good depth of field, then it's easier for you to do the editing part. But if the footage is a challenge to work with, any professional editor will struggle. If you shoot a lot of content through mobile phone, CapCut is my favorite recommendation. But I've used CapCut when I was using my phone, and it kind of impacted my phone. I used my iPhone extensively, and that's the reason it's kind of damaged now. I wouldn't recommend you using your phone for content creation because it is not as good as a camera, and second, it is always going to struggle with performance over time. As an example, my iPhone is not working as it's supposed to. It overheats, it doesn't perform as well because I've used extensively, producing high quality content and doing all the editing on it, then posting on it. So I wouldn't recommend using your iPhone for filming. But as I said, like, you've got your camera, you got your lens, you got your lighting set up, then you need to invest in a good editing tool. Now, the great news is that the editing tool that I would recommend here is absolutely free. It's DaVinci Resolve. Everyone knows about this. All the content creators, I think every single content creator that I've come across actually uses the DaVinci Resolve, which is really, really helpful because you can get lots of, just like the Sony camera, you can get a lot of help online. You can learn all the tips and tricks. I think my learning curve was the quickest when it came to the editing software, DaVinci. So I was using CapCut for the last, for the first 7 to 8 months of my journey on Instagram, and I had a really good hang of it. But then, I had that concern that if I move to DaVinci, then there's this learning curve, and will I be good at it? Will it work? Will it not work? How quick I can turn things around? But I think first few weeks I struggled a little bit. It was really hard for me to turn things around quickly. And in fact, today I can edit a footage on DaVinci Resolve much quicker than I would have in the past on CapCut through my iPhone. So yeah, definitely invest your time learning editing tools, because once you got your high quality footage from a high quality camera, the thing you'll struggle with afterwards is how do you edit that footage? And you don't want to do all of that on your phone, and you can't. So you need to learn those skills on a desktop, and DaVinci Resolve is the best software that I've come across, better than Final Cut Pro. I was a Final Cut Pro user before. I don't recommend it, and I think if you want to learn professional level editing, the DaVinci Resolve is best software editing tool out there at the moment. Okay, so first two parts of the video done, let's move to the third part. You need to now engage. You need to come across as a social being. Like in the normal life outside of this virtual world, how you socialize with other humans is the same way you need to interact online. So whenever you post a content, whoever comments on your content, reply back instantly, drive the early engagement, and follow some of the creators within your niche who share the same values with you and you think you can, work with them, and then try to collaborate on some of the content with them. Try to, engage with their content, like, share, comment, and they will do the same for you. And for example, in my case, I have 20 or 30 different creators that always post comment on my content, and I do the same, right? So it drives engagement, and their followers then see my content, they share my content, I share their content. So it kind of becomes like a whole social interaction, and just have fun with it. That's the whole thing. So by doing that, the Instagram algorithm realizes that you are a real human and you're actually a genuine influencer, and you're driving engagement, you're speaking with others, you're talking with others, you're sharing your values and you're sharing your opinions, and that's what Instagram likes, and that will lift your content, and slowly you will start to grow. I hope this video was helpful and will help you become a professional content creator one day, and I hope to see your content on the social media platforms. Again, as I said before, more than tools, more than editing skills, more than having a great engagement online, what really matters online is consistency. Whatever you produce, even if you can't get all the tools that I mentioned here, even if you just have your iPhone and you want to do exactly what everyone else is doing, the reason they break is because they reach a point and then they stop. If you started your journey, look at next 600 days and just post every single day. If you can't commit every single day, at least every other day. And do not stop for the next 600 days. I promise you'll reach a great success on social media. There's a lot to go after here, and there's so many, different niche you can enter into. So find your niche, find what you are good at, and share that with the audience online. And I wish you all the best. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.